A play fight goes wrong. But this isn't between two people. This is between a man and a lion. A pet lion. Raised from just 1 week old, the lion turns on its master in the most unimaginable way possible. Hit like and subscribe. This is Fierce. In 2015, West Mathewson, a safari lodge owner and passionate conservationist, made a life-changing decision. He rescued 2 lion cubs, just 1 week old, from a local farm where lions were bred for trophy hunting. The farm's practice of raising the lions until they were old enough to be hunted deeply disturbed West. But it wasn't just his soft heart that encouraged him to make the decision to rescue them. He also saw a business opportunity of his own. These particular cubs, 2 rare white lionesses, not only captured his heart, but they were likely to draw in visitors to his Lion Tree Top Lodge. This was West's home, located near the famed Kruger National Park in South Africa's Limpopo province. He had both the time and space to raise the cubs, and he became like a father to them, naming them Demi and Tanner. Although it helped them to grow and develop, it would never replace the social interactions wild lions would learn from their natural pride, but it was the best West could offer them. As time passed, West introduced them to his guests, and they quickly became an attraction at the lodge. He used the lionesses to educate people about conservation and the importance of this iconic species within the ecosystem. By the time they were 3 years old, the lionesses had matured into full-grown adults. West, affectionately known as Uncle West by his friends, continued to treat them like family, even embracing them in tight hugs. The lionesses, in turn, often included him in their play. Although the lionesses hadn't shown aggression towards him, their growing strength and natural instincts were undeniable. Despite being raised in a controlled environment, they still retained the wild instincts to hunt. They had the potential to be very dangerous, and it was only a matter of time before something went horribly, horribly wrong. In 2017, when the lionesses were 2 years old, they managed to escape from the property. On the other side of the fence, they had spotted 2 men, Quebec Justice and his colleague. The 2 friends were out innocently collecting wood. They didn't know that disaster was about to strike. As they bent down, picking up dead wood from the long grass, Demi and Tanner locked their eyes on them. Something switched inside them. Their killer instincts kicked in, and they saw these 2 men as potential prey. In an instant, one of the lionesses sprinted forward and leapt on top of Justice. He let out a startled cry as he was thrown to the ground and pinned there by the white lioness. Justice's colleague screamed and began throwing stones at the animal to drive it away, but she bit down and Justice screamed out in pain. Then, seconds later, the lioness jumped off and walked away. It had been a moment of pure instinct, but its impact had been devastating. The friend helped Justice off the ground and half carried, half dragged him to safety before calling for an ambulance. Justice, who was diabetic, sustained severe injuries and, despite receiving medical attention, passed away a few days later. Doctors couldn't conclusively determine whether the attack or his underlying health condition was the cause of his death. In response to the tragedy, West expressed his belief that the lioness's actions were not driven by aggression, but rather an instinctual desire to play. He argued that had the lioness intended to harm Justice, then he would have been torn to shreds in a matter of seconds, and she wouldn't have let him go. Whether or not West's statement was entirely accurate, it highlighted the immense strength that both Demi and Tanner possessed. Despite being raised in captivity, they remained wild animals at their core, and the incident served as a stark reminder of the inherent dangers in caring for such powerful creatures. West understood his responsibility to the public, but he also knew that no matter how much he cared for them, the lionesses could never be fully tamed. Despite realizing this, West continued to treat the lionesses like part of the family. The warning signs were there, but he was too in love with them to distance himself. Just 3 years later, history was about to repeat itself. It was August 2020. The lionesses were now 5 years old, and West was 69. The day began as any other. West took the lionesses on their daily stroll around his land, while his wife Gil followed behind in their car. This was West's happy place, surrounded by the familiar sounds of the African bush, with his beloved lions. Out amongst nature was heaven for him. But as the lionesses stretched their legs, they began to become boisterous. West watched as they began play fighting. Over the past couple of years, their daily scraps had become more and more powerful. They continually tested each other's strength and grappling abilities. They were no longer the fluffy balls of fur they had been when West first laid eyes on them. They were now built of pure muscle. Unfortunately, they still saw West as one of them. Just as they would play fight with others in their pride in the wild, they wanted to do the same with West. Suddenly, one of the lionesses let go of the other and turned and leapt on top of West, but he couldn't fight back in the same way a fully grown lion could. He was flattened by one lioness. She straddled him, and he yelled at her to stop, but she was too focused on the game. She was too focused on the fight. She didn't hear her master's call. Seconds later, the lioness snapped out of her frenzied state and jumped off West. Gil rushed to his side, but he was gravely injured. He was losing consciousness as he looked up into Gil's eyes. She hurriedly called the emergency services, but it was too late. Tragically, West died in Gil's arms. Everything had happened so quickly. What had started out as a routine walk had ended in unimaginable tragedy for the family. Some may say that West was foolish for treating the lions as pets rather than wild animals, but he trusted them with his life. He was all they had known. He had cared for them since they were defenseless, week-old cubs. He had nursed them as a female lion would have done in the wild, and he had given them the space they needed to grow and develop into the adult lionesses that now stood before him. But they had betrayed him. His family didn't believe the killing was intentional. They believed that it was rough play gone wrong, and insisted that Demi and Tanner would not be harmed. It is what West would have wanted. He was an inspiration to his family and conservationists alike. His kindness and determination to make a difference would not be forgotten. But what happened to his beloved lions? Demi and Tanner were tranquilized and removed from the property. Although they had been responsible for the death of their loved one, the family felt heartbreak over losing the lions too. They had been such a huge part of West's life over the past 5 years, and had brought so much joy to visitors to his lodge that saying goodbye to them was another huge loss. But they took comfort in knowing that they were going to an endangered species center where they would be cared for in the best possible environment for 2 captive lions, with the potential for release into the wild at a later date. For West, his journey ended there, but his legacy lives on, and he will always be remembered as the man who walked with lions.